Hey, welcome back to Garden Rose. If you're anything like me, you love coming home from a long weekend away or a trip to check on the garden. So that's what we're doing tonight. There's a lot of things happening here, and I'm bringing some baskets along because I know there's going to be a lot to harvest. So come hang out with me while we check out the updates and harvest. The first big update is that in this space where we had all of our garlic, I replanted some cucumbers with this trellis to hopefully have a space where they can really take up their own space and grow a little bit better, because you'll see my cucumbers a little bit later, they're pretty wild. So I have more hope for this space. These are pickling cucumbers, so I know that I won't have to try to separate regular versus pickling here. So these are all pickling, and then I did plant some lettuce seeds, but not very much has come up, so we'll see what happens here. Carrots are still going strong. I haven't picked any yet, and I think I'll leave them for now. But these beets, I think we're ready. It's huge. All right, the next update is that this tomato has really just turned into a bush, and it fell over. It's growing back up towards itself. So I don't know. I probably should trim it back, but I wouldn't even know where to start at this point. But we do have a lot of little tomatoes, so we'll probably just, I don't know, wait until we get a decent amount of red cherry tomatoes off of this, because I do have another cherry tomato plant, but this is like the tiny cherry reds. So maybe I'll just let some of these grow, and then when we get enough, maybe I'll try to chop this back and see what happens, because it's a bit chaotic at the moment. We did have a windstorm. I mean, we had a storm in general, but we also had a lot of wind, so everything kind of took a hit. This flower was standing straight up, but now it's kind of bending over, and another one popped up. But yeah, everything is kind of like blown over, so I'm hoping it'll straighten itself out, but that's why this happened. And then the next thing I want to harvest, I already came out here and got so many green beans like late last week, just a few days ago really, but they're already good to go again. So I need to come in here and pick some green beans. The last spot that I have beans is over here. So I did see, yeah, the dragon tongue bush bean is starting now. But I might, well, I'll take that one off, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of other ones. So I'm not gonna necessarily like take all of those and put them, oh, there's another one. I don't wanna necessarily mix them all together, but I'll grab just these couple. Not a bad harvest. I had one of these baskets already full, and this is probably half, so I might have enough to start canning. All right, so moving on to this bed. These are all my Roma tomatoes, and I've pruned these back quite a bit, but they have grown to, you know, the same size that they were before I pruned them. So they just keep growing, which is great because they're growing a lot of tomatoes, but they are just getting pretty big and kind of overwhelming. So I'm just letting them go now and they'll do their own thing. Oh my gosh, there's some red in there. Those are the very first ones. That's really exciting. So maybe they'll start turning soon and we'll be able to get rid of these big, massive plants. But had some beans throughout here and some basil that I definitely have to harvest off of because they're starting to go to seed. And I don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna harvest a bunch of basil here. And over here. And this dill is in my way because it got knocked over. So I'm probably gonna have to take that down today, just to make it easier to walk through. But that's the rest of the basil. And then look, my borage opened up and it's just stunning. So that's good for the bees. Hopefully they'll come check it out. I haven't seen any on it yet, but I haven't been checking it out too much. So maybe soon. Oh yeah, there they are. There are so many tomatoes. I'm so excited for this tomato year. And there's even more behind me on my trellis that I'll show you in a minute. More basil. This is that large cherry tomato. We did get a tomato cage that we were able to put around it just to hold it up a little bit more, so it's more supported. I don't see any red just yet, but there's a ton on there. And then another thing I need to harvest here is some spinach. This thing is just growing and growing and growing and growing and doesn't know where to go next. So I'm gonna harvest some of the spinach off of here. We've already gotten a couple good amounts. I've given some away, so I'm happy with the spinach this year. Again, this, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I talked a little bit about this already, but this is a new variety to me. This is, I think, the red Malabar, so it is like the vining one, which I probably should have planned a little bit better for, but now I know, now I see how it grows and I can, you know, manage it a little bit better next year. But this was the spinach I grew last year, and I just kind of emptied the seed packet out here. We didn't love it. It doesn't have a ton of flavor. I might be letting it go too long, and maybe that's why. Maybe I should be picking it a little bit smaller like this. But also, I don't know if you can tell the difference between the two. This is really smooth and, I don't know, thin. And this almost has like a bumpy texture to it. And it's a lot thicker. So it wasn't like necessarily the best mouth feel either. I did can it last year, so like cooked down and canned, it you know, thrown in a soup, it didn't make a big difference. But I think for fresh eating, we've really been enjoying this a lot more. So I'll take a bunch of spinach in, maybe freeze dry some, maybe can some again, I'm not too sure. And then more basil. So yeah, let's harvest some of these greens. Another fun update is this tomato trellis, which is definitely booming. And to my surprise, look at these Jersey Devils. These are the Romas, like a Roma variety, but it's indeterminate. They are huge. They look like peppers. I was not expecting them to get so much bigger than Romas. I thought they would kind of be the same, but they're very cool. So I'm happy that those are really going good now. There's more here. And then here's where the money makers start. So these are a little bit smaller, kind of more like a beefsteak. Lots of them here. Now down here, we had a lot of rain. We had about 4 inches. And this spot right here stayed wet for like a day or two. So I'm thinking that that's why these leaves are looking pretty yellow. It really only seems to be like these 2 plants right here. Everything else seems to be good. So maybe it dried out enough, but this just stayed damp too long. The tomatoes still look really good. So that's the centiflora one. So I think that I'll just take those leaves off and maybe they'll be okay. Have more centiflora buds starting. And then this one's really cool. I'm excited for those to turn red. I think this is the Arkansas Traveler. Those look like they're starting to maybe blush just a tiny bit. And knock on wood, I haven't had an issue with like blossom end rot, which I did last year in my raised beds. So happy to see that this year. These seem to be looking good. And then I'm kind of confused. So these ones are supposed to be my mortgage lifters, which look like the big meaty heirloom slicers, but these are staying pretty small. Like they look the same as the money makers. So I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't know if they will eventually get bigger as they continue to grow. Like maybe they'll get bigger as the plant grows in general. Like the stem looks a lot bigger. Like it looks like it should be growing even more. So I'm a little bit confused, but we'll see. They're all from the same packet too, so maybe there's just something weird going on with that packet, but we'll see. Either way, we have a lot of tomatoes and they're looking really good. I cannot handle this bed yet, so let's look at other things. Here are some strawberries. These ones are getting a little bit eaten by Japanese beetles, but not terrible. The sweet potatoes are looking pretty good. And then these strawberries, look! I got a big one. Those are the biggest ones I've gotten so far. So that's really cool. But yeah, these look to be doing really well. Now my onion and pepper bed, again, like I said, everything kind of got blown over. So they're all leaning a little bit, but that's okay. They're still doing really good. Here's my mini bells. They have a ton of peppers on them. And next to that is the regular bells. So those are starting to grow pretty good. There's some. Those look like the pepperoncinis maybe. I do have labels somewhere, but I think these are the violet ones maybe. Oh, what? Pimento. I thought the pimento was supposed to be really small, but those are huge. So I guess that's the pimento. Here are, what are you? These might be cayennes waiting to turn. Or serranos probably. There's a mix of serranos and cayenne. Oh, there's cayenne because there's a red one. Nice. Serrano. So those are the serranos. These must be the cayennes. And then I know this one anywhere. There's those habaneros. Sorry for this terrible camera work. Oh, you know what? These are probably the habanadas. So these won't, oh no, that says habanero. Yeah, so regular habanero. Maybe my habanadas are over there because I kept everything that didn't have spice that side. Then more habanero, and these are all the jalapeno. So just starting to get some fruits on them, looking good. The onions have really blown over, and I'm nervous that that means that they might just like stop growing and start drying out, because when the neck falls, that's when it signals to the bulb to stop. Ew, that's a massive spider web. But I mean, look at the size of them. Like, they are huge. So even if all the necks are kind of like broken from that windstorm and they stop, that's fine. I'll be able to harvest these, and they're huge. Like, they're great size. So I have no idea why they turned out so much better than last year. I did like plant them a little bit more carefully. I focused on putting them like not too deep. I think last year I had them too deep, so the bulb like didn't really grow above ground. It was like buried too deep. So I think maybe that made a big difference. See, these ones, like the necks are still fine. So maybe that wind was just enough to like finish it off. And these ones like weren't done yet, so they bounced back up because they all were kind of blown over. And then we're getting into the red onions. Hold on, let me see if I can find a good spot. And those are starting to bulb up too. So I'm happy that those are starting to bulb because they weren't for a while. So we'll have some cute little red onions too. And then there's probably more. Yeah, here's more peppers. I promise I will go through here and make sure I know what's what, but today's just not the day. I am very sweaty and the weather is deceiving. I thought it was going to be a really cool evening and it's not. It's very hot, so we'll figure out the peppers another day. But they're all looking really good. Okay, let's talk about this bed. First of all, these opened up. Again, I really don't even know if it's a zinnia or a dahlia. If you know in the comments, let me know. They look so similar, so I'm not 1000% sure. Well, I guess this is like the yellow center. Oh, well, maybe this is yellow because it's a yellow flower. I don't know. They're both very pretty though, so I'm happy to have that little spice of color there. But then I already showed you here, so the beans, these are my dragon tongue bush beans. And then somewhere over here we start to get into some dried beans. So I want to leave them and see what they will turn into. I did pick some before I realized what I did. So these aren't just regular green beans, I don't think. But we'll see if they grow any different. And then, oh, I don't know, you already noticed, right? I mean, there's cucumbers everywhere. The cucumbers have spread throughout this entire bed and it's completely my fault. I mean, I put way too many in this little spot thinking that it would be fine and it is not fine. So, oh, there's one. I mean, it's like, it's working. We're getting, there's lots of fruits starting. So I think they'll be okay. Actually, if I go to the other side, there's a really good view. Let me go over there. So in here, there's some. Here's one. So this is that beta alpha something. I'll put the name on the screen because I don't remember it right now. But this is the one I'm trying out this year that's spineless. So you can see they don't have like the white bumps or anything. So I'll know that those ones, those will look different, which is helpful to know. And then these guys are the pickling ones, I believe. So I can probably pull those actually. That's not enough to make pickles. So maybe I'll leave them. Oh, here's another good one. Here's cool. I think those will still get a little bit bigger, so I'm gonna leave them. But I mean, they're growing. It's just like they go out this way, they go out this way. This is another lemon cucumber, so it's a different kind. But I mean, this one's going everywhere too. I keep trying to train it so that it goes up this trellis. But it has a mind of its own. Maybe that'll stay. So we have the potential to get a lot of cucumbers. I haven't seen any fruits on this one yet. But I am excited too because I think they'll be little cute, round, little lemon looking guys. So that'll be fun. And then there is cucamelon all in here. I don't know if I'm even gonna get any because it's just kind of growing wherever it can to survive. But we'll see, maybe we'll get some. Again, this is like my mistake of the year. I definitely need to space out my cucumbers better next year, but it's okay. And then these are some more cucumbers. Pole beans. So hopefully these start going a little bit. I'm happy with the way they're just like literally growing up the pole by themselves. They're just wrapping themselves around, so I can find them a little bit easier. I don't think there's any. Oh, there's a little cucumber. But I'm not seeing any beans yet, so the beans will do their thing, hopefully, through the cucumber mess. There are more onions here. Again, this was just kind of like, I don't want to waste these, and I had them, so I put them here. I'm not expecting a whole lot, but if something does happen, cool. This is a cucamelon. Where are you going? Oh, this poor cucamelon is like wrapping itself around. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll just let that go. And then here is the massive zucchini. Again, I had these trimmed and like pruned back to very small plants, like maybe 5 leaves, and I was so happy with it. And they've just exploded, and they're so pokey, so I don't really want to get in there too much. But one thing I will say is that last year I was battling squash bugs like no other, and I like every time I would check under a leaf, there would be so many eggs, and I haven't seen any. Knock on all the wood, because I really don't want to have that issue again. But I've been really pleased with not having to fight that battle this year, because that was terrible. So I do see a zucchini. Here's one. I have a couple inside already, so I think I'm going to leave that. I know it'll get a little bit bigger even by tomorrow, but that's okay. This is the Italian striped one, so it looks a little bit different, but I haven't really noticed a huge difference in taste just yet, because I've been mixing them. So, but yeah, that one will be ready maybe a couple days too. So then we have back here, there is my like patty pan summer squash growing right here. That had a slower start, so it's just kind of taking off now, but it is there. I'm happy to see it. Hopefully it doesn't get choked out by cucumbers. And then here is my Japanese beetle garden. They are everywhere, all over these pole bean leaves. So I'm not sure. It looks like the pole beans are still kind of doing their thing. Like they're might be setting on some fruit soon, but this has become a tangled mess as well. So you can see my chaos gardening went a little bit too far in this bed for sure, and it's become a little overwhelming. This is my radish going to seed. I'm trying to let those dry out, but yeah, it's just a little bit of everything everywhere. So I'm kind of just letting it go and seeing what happens, and stick along for the ride to see what happens, because I have no idea. So yeah. Actually, one last thing in this bed. You may have noticed this dried, ugly mess here. These are my peas that I was letting dry out. And I already got a good, I think like they cover a whole plate. So I got a few pea pods that I was able to get the seeds from already. I wasn't sure if they were all done, so I did leave these just to let them like finish drying out. But I do want to harvest these and save the seeds so that I can use them next year. So I'm gonna grab those really quick, and then I think we're done. They're definitely dried, but I'm worried that this is like mold. Oh, the peas don't look bad inside. So these are way more dried than the other ones that I harvested already. So maybe I'll keep these separate and we'll test like the germination just to see if this is better next year than what I had. They look like this now because I let them dry out on a plate, but maybe that's different. I don't know. So I'll throw these in my basket and get the rest of them. I think I'm gonna pull those plants out just because they're looking really bad and I don't want them to get their badness on anything else. So I'll do that. So now those are all cleared out and I can take some seeds from the dwarf peas and the regular ones, unless Ozzy eats them. All right, well, that's all I have in me for tonight. So that was everything. That's all the big updates. That's everything I could harvest tonight. Now I got to go inside and wash it all and put it up. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.